The opinions expressed on this program are solely those of individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of either Spectrum Generations or Time Warner Cable. Mature Lifestyle is made possible by Knowlton Hewins Roberts Funeral Homes and Cremation Service. Our homes are warm and welcoming, and we take care of you and your family like we would our own. Call us anytime. We are here for you.
Hello and welcome to Mature Lifestyles. Spectrum Generations is so pleased to bring you programs that have lots of answers to questions that you've thought about but didn't know who to ask, and today is no exception. We're all consumers, whatever age we are, and sometimes things go wrong, and we have the people here. We have the doctors of consumer affairs, if you will. If things do go wrong, hopefully they don't. We have wonderful guest today, I must admit, Denis Culley, who is a staff attorney at Maine Legal Services for the Elderly. He is a wonderful advocate for elderly and making sure that they're served properly and knows how to help you with your legal questions. He's going to tell us about that. And we have Martha Currier, who is we just talked about, she has young children, but she keeps fighting the good fight for consumers and is very experienced in that area and is in the Office of the Attorney General. And so I'm delighted that you're here, but the first thing I'd like to do is to get you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Martha, how did you get into the Office of the Attorney General and why?
I started at the Attorney General's office in 2011 as the executive assistant to then Attorney General Bill Schneider, so I did the legislative work and his executive work. And before he left, a position opened in the Consumer Protection Division, running the Consumer Information and Mediation Service.
Right.
So I supervise 4 assistant complaint examiners and 23 volunteer mediators.
Oh my goodness, that is a big job.
It is.
And they're volunteer mediators. Could you just tell us a little bit about that? Because our viewers may want to become one of those one day.
Oh, that would be wonderful. We're always looking for new mediators. Volunteer mediators work between 4 and 6 hours a week, and they mediate complaints between consumers and businesses. There's a variety of things that we mediate, including Maine's implied warranty law, used cars, apartment rentals, and those kinds of things.
Give us an example of something, a case, not with names, of course,
Sure.
but something someone might mediate with an implied warranty or a car, whatever you think.
The implied warranty is probably the best example.
Okay.
Here in Maine, if you purchased a new good or used good or service, it's good for 4 years. So if you
Right.
go and buy a TV from a big box store and 2 years later it has a big line through it, every show has a big black line, something's wrong with TV. You take it back to the big box store and they say, the 1-year warranty is expired and we're not going to give you a new one. And then your option is to tell them that under the implied warranty, you can get that TV repaired or replaced for free. So our mediators will work with the big box store and the manufacturer to get that TV repaired or replaced. So you can't go from a 32-inch screen TV to a 50-inch screen TV, but you could get that 32-inch screen TV replaced or repaired for free.
Well, that's a 4-year thing, and
That's
I'll
right.
bet lots of people don't know that. How would one know to call the Attorney General's office for help? I mean, most of us think, well, no, you're doing bigger things than that, but you can help an everyday citizen solve a problem?
I always tell folks to call our office if they have any question about state government. I've been in state service now for 12 years.
Right.
And having worked over at the legislature, I know a lot of different places to send people. So I just tell folks to call the AG's office.
Okay, and so if they call you, if you're not the right place, you'll know how to get help for them in some other place.
Or I'll call around to find out who they need to talk to.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. And you have professional staff who do some of the mediation, but you also need volunteers.
We always need volunteers, and so if people are interested in volunteering 4 to 6 hours a week, they can contact me directly at the Attorney General's office, and I'll talk to them about our program. We offer trainings to be mediators, so all you have to have is the interest in the law.
And you would give them the training and what kind of laws they needed to know. For example, that's an important thing you've taught people, I'm sure, today. 4 years, no matter what that 1-year limited warranty says.
That's right.
You've got a 4-year window to
Yes.
try to work things out.
That's right.
Denis, and you have to go into court from time to time on behalf of consumers, and in fact you do all kinds of services, legal services for the elderly. First of all, talk to me a little bit about how you chose that particular focus, because I know you're very good at it.
Sure. Well, as you know, Libby, after you and I got out of law school, I clerked for a year in the Superior Court system, and at the end of that time had some options, but I always had a real interest in public interest law, and legal services for the elderly was a great fit right from the beginning, representing Mainers 60 and older in civil matters.
Okay.
And so I went off to that back in the days when we were at Green Street, the old CMP building. Now we're over on Waybon Street. And we represent Mainers 60 and older statewide in matters, civil, not criminal, civil matters related to basic human needs, and a fairly broad range of matters. Our helpline will provide legal services, legal advice, brief representation on a very broad range of matters, consumer debt matters, habitability issues, all sorts of civil matters. The staff attorneys, which I am one of, there's one in every office statewide. We have 5 offices. Will do extended representation, including in-court litigation on matters related to basic human needs. A lot of what we do is benefits work, public benefits work, Medicaid issues, Medicare issues, that sort of thing, but also issues related to habitability and FEDs, eviction matters.
Right.
A lot of financial exploitation matters, financial exploitation of the elderly, also physical abuse of the elderly, that sort of thing.
So any issue, civil,
Yeah.
that comes up for a person 60 or over that involves the courts, you can at least call the helpline to
Yes.
get some introductory information. And how does one become eligible for the actual services of an attorney like you?
Well, if you're 60 or older and you're a Maine resident, and it's a matter of basic human need, you're eligible.
You're eligible.
And much like as the
Yes.
AG's office was just telling us, if you call us and it's not something appropriate for us, we'll make sure
You'll
you
help
get
people
referred
find
to.
the way.
Yeah, someone can.
Can you give us, I mean, she gave the example of the implied warranties that people fight with sometimes. What are some of the biggest issues you see in your practice in this past year, perhaps?
Yeah, personally, I see an awful lot of financial exploitation cases. And these are sadly mostly relatives who separate elders from their assets one way or another. Sometimes in a way where the elder isn't really aware of what's going on, sometimes through manipulating the elder emotionally or other ways. Sometimes there can be threats of force, that sort of thing. But mostly love is the hinge on which it turns.
Right. So-
And they misuse that love for their own benefit. And they separate the elder. One of the things that sort of magnifies the problem is there are sort of incentives built into our law and regulation, both in Maine and nationwide, that can encourage elders or set the scene for elders to separate themselves from their own assets so they may qualify for public
And
benefits,
so
including
when you're talking
Medicaid.
about maybe giving your home away or giving away your car or some things that you need that are basic to you
Yes.
in exchange for because you trust and love someone and that you have nothing left when it's over.
Well, also in exchange for the spoken
promise is not
of
kept.
fealty and care, yes.
Right, and that
Yeah.
doesn't happen. And I think in this very cold season, you have a lot of issues coming up around heating assistance and that sort of thing. Could you tell me what goes on in your office on consumer protections and delivery of oil and all those issues?
We get a ton of calls this time of year. You know, people are strapped for cash,
Yep.
and heating fuel is expensive. And the Attorney General actually has rules set in place that are from October 15th to April 30th, that there are certain guaranteed provisions that people can get heating fuel, excuse me, even if they still owe that dealer money. And so I brought my cheat sheet with me, so if you don't mind me reading.
No, please. I think it's important that we educate people because there may be somebody out there right now who's cold and doesn't know what to do.
And I think it's important to note that there are resources available out there if you can't heat your home, you don't know where to turn. The biggest resource that I always tell people about is 211. It's just dial 211 on your telephone, and that will put you in touch with someone here in Maine who can find out where you live, what your circumstances are, and put you in touch with people who can help you, either general assistance from your town or other community resources to help you get fuel.
Okay, so that's an important thing. You're educating people, and 211 is the number to call, and people have that information.
That's correct.
Okay.
But in terms of getting heating fuel to your home, a oil dealer has to deliver to you. They can't refuse you this time of year if you have a guaranteed payment, like a LIHEAP payment or general assistance from the
You
town.
want to say what LIHEAP is in case someone doesn't know?
Low-income heating assistance program.
Right. So there are programs, if you can't afford your heat, that might assist you.
That's
and
right.
if you are eligible for that, your oil dealer has to say, yep, I know it, so I'm going to deliver. I must deliver.
That is correct.
Okay.
And then if the dealer regularly serves your area and you request at least 20 gallons. Now, there are chances that a dealer could impose a surcharge because maybe it's not the regular delivery day. I know where I live, Tuesday is my delivery day. Right. So if I'm running out of oil on Friday, I either have to make it until Tuesday
or pay extra.
Or pay extra. So folks really need to know that they can be charged extra if it's not their regular delivery day and it's emergency
So they're
service.
trying to get you to plan.
That's
because
right.
the oil dealer can't totally subsidize, has to do the right thing.
That's
Still
correct.
has a business to run.
That's right. But the dealer has to tell you how much that extra charge would be, why they are charging it to you. And if you're an established customer, they have to treat you just like they would any other person. So an established customer is somebody who's received their 2 most recent deliveries from that dealer. So if they're not going to charge a regular customer an emergency fee, delivery fee, they can't charge that to you.
Okay,
And-
all right. They have to treat you like everyone else.
That's right. And I
Okay.
do tell folks, if you have any questions whatsoever, just to call our office and we'll try to help troubleshoot the problem with you.
Well, that's great. So that, and again, calling the Attorney General's office is something you might not think about, but it's a great place to call because there are these rules and protections in place to get you through the winter.
And if we need to, we'll pick up the phone and call the oil dealer and say,
Yeah.
Martha Currier is trying to get a delivery. She's told us this. What's going on? And
There may be another side to
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah.
And
There
then
may be some
that's
simple
where your
misunderstanding.
mediation comes in, too,
That's right.
isn't it?
Yep.
Are there other issues concerning heating? You've given us a wealth of information, but is there anything else that comes to mind about the heating piece?
Not in particular about the heating piece, but remember there's 211. There are resources available if you can't heat your home. So just try to keep those in mind. Reach out to your general assistants in your towns.
And
those
the
kinds of
consumer
places.
protections are particularly from October until
April 30th.
April. The idea is during this coldest of the seasons when it's so important you have those protections. Dennis, do you do any heating issues as
Yes, we do.
Yes,
I was listening
your
to
partners,
Martha,
I bet.
I was thinking how in a way our service dovetails into theirs. When people get into a situation where they can't access or where there may be a dispute over being able to access, say, general assistance or the LIHEAP program, we will often engage on behalf of the elder, either at the helpline level or at the area office level, staff attorney litigating. I do LIHEAP appeals. I help.
And an appeal would be if you were denied and you would
Right,
try to
if you-
say, wait a minute, there's a mistake.
Yes.
This person is eligible.
That's right. And I help elders with, from time to time with applications for general assistance.
Because that can
heating
be
oil.
complicated, can it?
It can be, yeah.
And each town is very different too,
Yes.
and they may get a little confused.
You have to
and
go
that's
by
where
the town's ordinance.
the
every
town, each
yeah.
town has an ordinance, but they
Yes.
can get help from you. And stay tuned. We'll be right back with some more important consumer information. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
There's more to local sports than what happens out on the field, court, or ice. Go inside the game. Gain the perspective of coaches, players, and fans. Only on TWC TV's Inside the Game. We go beyond the final score, bringing you inside the huddle, inside the action, inside the game. Only on TWC TV. Visit twctv.net for more information.
Spectrum Generations. Live healthy. Live well. Get answers. Get connected. Spectrum Generations. Specializing in the art of aging.
Life should be celebrated. It's a special day when family and friends gather together to celebrate the life of a loved one. A celebration of life helps us honor our loved one and keep our memories alive. Whether you're planning a traditional funeral, a creative celebration of life, or a blend of both, at Knowlton Hewins Roberts, we are truly committed to meet the personal and unique needs of you and your family. Knowlton, Hewins, Roberts. Visit us online or visit our 2 locations in Augusta and Winthrop.
Welcome back to Mature Lifestyle. We're having the Attorney General's Office and Legal Services for the Elderly, 2 extraordinary people who are I'm calling them the doctors today of consumer affairs because they're talking prevention. They will help you get out of a jam when you get into one, but how do you keep out of getting into a jam? We talked during the break amongst ourselves a bit about scams and how not just the elderly, but we're focusing on elderly today. What kinds of scams do you see most often on your helpline or asking for legal services? Help me, I've already done this, I've fallen for a scam.
Sure. Well, we see phone scams of all kinds, you know, the relative in need type scam where they get information, they call an elder with a voice and some biographical background on a grandchild, that sort of thing. We see...
and of course, an elderly person, this is of course I'll help if you tell me this person's in trouble. So they get information on the phone.
Yeah, or just direct payment of money. Send money to help
because
me get,
in trouble.
Sure.
And so how do you avoid that? What do you tell an elderly person to do?
Well, if someone calls you up on the phone asking for money, be extraordinarily wary, whether they portray themselves as a bank or a government agency or a relative or whoever they might be.
So step number 1 is find out who you're talking to and make sure this is true. And don't just assume it's true because it's a very serious situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, just don't send money to people who ask you for money over the phone. But, you know, elders being overrepresented in landlines, and if you notice that our children all have cell phones, they don't have landlines. Elders are overrepresented on landlines. And also, elders tend to answer the phone. Libby, you and I probably...
We look at caller ID and say, nope.
Right. we probably remember a time where the phone rang and someone said, I'll get it. Well, those days have passed. Those days have passed. And, but you know, my grandmother and my mother...
She would answer the phone.
Just answer the phone.
Because you're thinking someone may need me. And so they play right into that.
It's a cultural habit, yeah.
Exactly.
And they also may be home. And they also may be willing to talk on the phone. They also may have an older set of manners that may make them less able to just hang up on somebody. But I wouldn't discount the amount of scamming that goes on by mail.
By mail,
sometimes,
so you get a letter.
Elderly clients who I engage with on various matters, I'll one way or another become exposed to their mail stream, and I'll be amazed at the amount of mail, some of it very official looking. You know, important U.S. government, Social Security materials, threat to your Social Security,
so it's frightening when you see it because it looks like a government document.
Well, it's the same thing. It works on emotions.
Yes.
And often it will seem to offer you something also if you send some money, something of value, that sort of thing. So it's not just the phone, it's also the mail. And of course, we all know that increasingly there are internet scams out there also. The most dangerous time in a scam is the first payment. The first payment, no matter how small, is the investment. And a lot of smart scammers start small. They get $10, $15, $20 from someone, and then it's easier from that point on because the person has invested.
And you go back again and again for another 10 or another so forth and so on. And they have your information, and they know you're vulnerable.
Yes.
Do you have those kinds of complaints in your office?
We get those calls all the time, and when I give presentations to different senior groups across the state, I get a lot of the same folks. You're comfortable in your home.
Yes.
You know, you're in your Berkle lounger, and you've got your cup of tea, and you're watching The Price is Right, and somebody calls, and so you pick up the phone, and maybe you're lonely, and you want to talk to someone, and there's this nice sounding voice in the other end of the line, and you start to talk, and then before you know it, they're asking you for money, and you're comfortable with that because now you feel like you've established a relationship.
Exactly.
My advice, my staff's advice from the Attorney General's office is to just hang up. You get calls.
Which is also difficult because
it is because of the manners.
It's not polite.
That's right.
It's not polite.
I mean, I was raised the same way.
Exactly.
But in this day and age, if somebody is asking you for money that you don't know, that you don't owe money to, they're trying to scam you, and they're very good at what they do. Otherwise, you wouldn't get so many scam calls. We wouldn't get so many complaints.
The voice on the other end is always excellent, isn't it?
It is.
And in fact, and I'm sure we all have gotten deeper into the conversation than we intended, and then all of a sudden the light bulb comes on and said, how do I know who you say you are? There's no answer. There's no way of them to tell you.
And so what I tell folks is if someone calls and says, this is Medicare calling and we need to get you out a new card, we need to confirm the card that you have. So if you could give us your social security number or the number on your card, or maybe read the last 3 digits on the back of your credit card, before you know it, you have given them all the information that they need to make you a victim of identity theft. So in the short term, you say, you know what? I don't know. Let me call you back. And if it's a legitimate business, they're not going to have a problem. Your bank, your Medicare, Social Security, they'll have no problem with that. A criminal is going to say, well, they might get a little defensive. Why do you need to call, and start being rude, frankly?
So that should be a huge red flag.
Yeah. So hang up the phone, call Medicare, and see if they actually need to get in touch with you. Oftentimes they'll say, no, we wouldn't have called you by telephone. We would have sent you something.
In fact, you often see information from banks or Medicare saying, we are not sending this out. Never give your information like that. So that's a hugely important thing to do. What else do you see, Dennis, in your...
Well, something I was speaking with our helpline staff who deal with consumer credit issues on a very regular basis, and a new scam. And as Martha said, and as you were noting, the scammers are very, very smooth, very good, and extraordinarily inventive. As I work around the law, one of the biggest problems I see is humans are so darn smart. Humans have all this mental ability, and when they want to use it for wrong, they can be very effective. And this is the scam. Fake debt collectors. Someone calls as if they're calling to collect a debt. And there is a whole legitimate debt collection industry because there's a lot of debt in our society.
Correct.
But these are not debt collectors. These are people who are making believe they are debt collectors, and who are calling people who may or may not owe any debt. And they certainly are not calling about any particular debt.
They don't call about a particular debt, just
sort of
in general.
Well, they may make up a debt. They may have a fake debt or a faux debt, or they may have a debt that may be similar to a type of debt you have or believe you have. And what they're after is information. It's sort of a phishing with a PH, phishing expedition, but also payments. And what our consumer credit person I was speaking with about it said is they're often more successful in extracting money from elders than legitimate debt collectors. And this may be partially because legitimate debt collectors are often dealing with people who are seasoned debtors
and don't want to pay and don't
dealing
plan
with debt collectors, know what the rules are.
Whereas the elderly pay their bills typically.
Well, elders can be in debt situations too.
But they're not hardened avoiders.
Right, but they may
get
get people who actually don't owe debt and who are perhaps more supple in the hands of a debt collector. Yeah.
Well, the biggest takeaway from our program is going to have to be call 211, call the Attorney General's Consumer Hotline, or call Legal Services for the Elderly. But before we have to sign off very soon, what are your last words of wisdom? I'm going to give you each a chance to tell us what you want consumers to remember most to avoid the problems, or if they get a problem, how to get help.
Number one, don't give out your personal information. If you give out your social security number or your birth date to someone that you don't know, you're giving away the farm, your social security number especially. And that opens you up to be a victim of identity theft. When it comes to people that call your home or maybe mail solicitations, don't engage the caller. Shred the junk mail, because when you press 1 to talk to somebody to tell them you want to be removed from the list, or 2 to be removed from the list on the phone, you're confirming that your telephone number works, and inevitably you're going to get more scam calls. So just hang up.
All right, Dennis, you also have a minute.
Sure. I would say elders should be aware that if it sounds too good to be true, it's almost certainly not true. If you haven't bought a ticket, you won't win the lottery, especially in foreign nations. But both close to home and far away, elders should be careful to protect their assets. Money has a special throw weight for the elderly. It's a type of protection for the elderly, and they should preserve their assets for themselves, both from those outside their home and family who are seeking their assets, and sadly from those who are much closer to them.
And so you're not saying don't trust people, but don't give away your assets without making sure you're taken care of.
Yeah, your assets are for you. As an elder,
your assets are for you.
Yeah.
And with that, we're going to have to stop our program and thank Martha and Dennis for an extraordinary educational session. And I hope you'll stay tuned for more, because we have an exciting fishing derby to tell you about.
Spectrum Generations. Live healthy, live well. Get answers. Get connected. Spectrum Generations, specializing in the art of aging.
Excuse me, begging your indulgence, sir. I'm a wealthy foreign dignitary, and I would like your help moving a vast sum of money into this country. I will let you keep most of it, but I would like to have some of it back, too. Please take this certified cashier's check as a portion of the transaction. Get lost.
Scams like these don't work as well in person. That's why most of them are done online.
Welcome back, and it is so much fun to be here to tell you it's time for the 16th annual Fishing Derby, the Laterno Fishing Derby. Spectrum Generations is a part of that, and Jamie is here. She's the development coordinator there, and she's here to tell us how we play. When is it, and how do we get in on the action?
Yep, it is on Sunday, February 23rd. All Maine lakes are eligible, so fish wherever you want.
Okay.
It's legal. And
Important
should be,
point.
yeah. And then weigh-in is at our Muskie Community Center in Waterville, 38
Okay.
Gold Street, and that's from 2 to 5 p.m.
So go fishing and
Go
get ready
fishing
to
all day,
weigh in
have
those
fun.
biggest fish.
Yes.
Any kind of fish?
There are 8 different categories that
Okay.
adults are competing in, and 10 different fish categories for children.
All right, so
And
kids
there's-
can play
Oh,
too.
we encourage kids to play, yes.
Okay.
It's
What's
a-
the date again?
February 23rd, it's a
All
Sunday.
right, that is so exciting, and it's always well attended. What are the
Yes.
prizes?
Well, we have lots of handmade pack baskets, which are gorgeous. Some nice multi-tools for the kids, and we have big door prizes. So you can go on our website at spectrumgenerations.org/derby, and you'll see lots of pictures and lots of information.
It's always fun, isn't it?
It
gets
is.
bigger every year. I
It does, and this is the 16th year, so it's pretty grand now.
16th year, and what about cost? Do I pay to get in, pay to
Yeah,
play?
it's tickets are $3 for 1 ticket, 5 for 2, and $10 for 5 tickets.
So it's very reasonable for
Yes.
a great winter
It's
fun
great.
day.
Yep, and then we have when we do the weigh-in from 2 to 5, and then right after that, while we're processing who the fun winners are, we have a live auction with lots
really?
of items donated
So
by the
what kinds of
community.
things do you auction? Just
We have lots of gift certificates. We have lots of different prizes just from community businesses.
so you fish all day, you
Yep.
come for a weigh-in, and stay
Yep.
for a party.
Yeah, we have food, we have drinks available, and it's very warm in there. So,
After
so
your
you
cold
warm up
day.
after you're fishing, and it all benefits Meals on Wheels.
And you can go anywhere in the state. You just
Yep.
come to this one
Just
weigh-in
come to the-
center.
yes,
And
exactly.
about how many people participate in this event?
Last year, I think we had about 160 people or so. We had a lot of people.
All ages. And
Yeah,
do you
all
remember
ages. It's
the
so much
biggest
fun.
fish? Or are they just big stories about the big
Yeah.
fish that got away?
There was one about yay big.
It got away.
Yeah.
It got away. It got
Always
away.
do, yeah.
And tell us again about the website, because we'll probably forget everything
Sure,
you
yeah.
said, but we want to participate.
Yeah, spectrumgenerations.org, and if you go to /derby, that's specific, but it's on our homepage too.
Okay.
And you can also call the Muskie Center, and that's 873-4745, and they can give you all the details on
And
info.
there's one other quick good thing. Money goes for what?
Meals on Wheels.
All right, so good cause, good fun.
Awesome cause.
Don't miss the Fishing Derby. Thank you for joining us today.
Mature Lifestyle is made possible by Knowlton Hewins Roberts Funeral Homes and Cremation Service. Our homes are warm and welcoming, and we take care of you and your family like we would our own. Call us anytime. We are here for you.
You're watching TWC TV, only on Time Warner Cable.